Hi creators, this is a tutorial about how to get started with the new Google Analytics 4. Um, I've been lazy about it. It's been over a month now, and I haven't done it on any of my sites yet. And so I'm just getting started. Actually, I saw the post that Yentl did yesterday, um, reminding people to do it. And he's absolutely right, man. Thanks for posting that, because that kicked me in the butt a little bit to do it as well. Because he's right. The earlier you do it, the longer it'll be collecting data, and the easier the transition will be at a time in the future unspecified by Google if they stop supporting, the universal analytics from before. Now, the consensus with a lot of the web guys is that they're definitely not going to get rid of your old data. Your old data will be safe, but they're making a big push to migrate to the Google Analytics 4 for the purpose of the machine learning and a whole bunch of other stuff. So it's probably not going to happen, for at least a year, I would say, maybe longer. And even so, the universal analytics that you've been using for quite some time is probably going to be supported for a while. So it's not like there's any urgency, like, hey, you're going to lose your data. That's not going to happen anytime soon. But Yentl's right that at some point you're going to want to make the switch, and the earlier it's been collecting data, the better. So first, I'm going to answer a few frequently asked questions about this right here, Google Analytics 4, and then I'm going to show you that I just implemented it on my first site, and then I'm actually going to go through a whole site live with you in this tutorial. Okay, this was confusing to me. Are we getting rid of the old analytics, the universal, or are we running both side by side? And the answer is that we're running both side by side for right now. So does that mean that you delete your old tags, or do you keep them? And the answer is kind of an in-between. Okay. Now this is going to differ depending on if you use a plugin to control your, like if you use a plugin and you just copy and paste your universal ID into the plugin, this might be a little bit different. You're actually going to be dependent on the plugin to upgrade you and walk you through the steps of Universal of Google Analytics 4. This is more for folks like me who just take like a global Google Analytics tag and paste it into the website myself, into my theme. So obviously your process might be a little bit different. I just installed it on capropertyfinder.com. And basically what I did, I'm going to show you my analytics. So now with CA Property Finder, I had fucked up. That's why I've got one crossed out right here. When I added it, I didn't connect it, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. But once I'm done, I end up with two different tags. The new one that I just created, or I'm sorry, properties, two different properties. The new one that I just created, and then the old one, which has the UA. The new ones don't have the UA, the old ones do. That's how you can tell the difference between them. And you can tell if I jump back over to my actual data. You can see that this has the historical data from that's by the day, whatever. This is kind of a newer site that I just put back up recently, so it doesn't have too much to show you. But if I pop back over here to the new property, as you can see, whereas this has views, the old Universal Analytics has views, the new one does not. It's just a property by itself. That's why nothing pops up here. It has what's called streams instead of views, and there's nothing on it yet. It does not import my old historical data, and that's why you want to run both side by side. So essentially, if you want to make sure that it's working, you would just install it, go to it, and you can click over here. Here we go. Slight delay, but you can see that there's a user on here right now. That's all I was trying to show you, was that although the new property doesn't show your historic data, it's definitely going to show people live. Now let me show you about my actual code. This code might look familiar because it's their universal tag, and it's basically the same one they were using before. When I popped over here to my analytics, let me go back to my admin. And here is my new property, right? I click on data streams. This one is on its way out. I had deleted it, but I said add new on page tag. I had kind of messed up, so I just clicked on this and copied it over. And you can see it's only got the gtag config in here, whereas here I've got the config and the UA. That's all I wanted to show you, was that you don't need this whole code twice, because this code, this whole global site tag, this is in the new stream. But if I pop back over here to the UA version, and I go to tracking info, tracking code, which is what you're familiar from in the past, you can see it's got pretty much the exact same thing again. The only difference is now it says gtag configure UA instead of the new one. So you don't need both. You can, I would just copy and paste the new version. That's what I did over here, and then just save your old UA tag and paste that right underneath the config. Because if you use any other Google services, like if you're on like Google AdSense, Google AdWords, whatever, I mean, they all basically now use this universal tag. And so you can copy and paste this new one, replacing your old one, and then just add back in this UA right here. That's it, really. I think that was the most confusing part for me, and maybe for a lot of other people, was just that, okay, I'm upgrading. Now what do I do with the old tag? Do I run them both side by side? Because you definitely don't want two sets of data. But even if you ended up accidentally copying and pasting this whole thing without the UA, if you had this whole global site tag twice, it's not going to necessarily record the data twice and screw up your analytics, because one of them is only going to have this, the new one, and your old one is only going to have this. You just don't need them both. You can consolidate the entire tag right here by just copying and pasting the old UA tag into the new one. So that's that. Now I'm going to go through the process with you and just set it up on a different website. Which one should I do? Okay, I'm back. I didn't want to make you sit through me loading everything up. So this is my note-taking web.com. Here's the front of it. It's literally just me taking notes live on the internet. It's not really a full blog. I just use it to make live notes or save stuff that I want to reference later in the future and could possibly help other people. So on the back end of it, I've got an old version. I've still got the Universal Analytics tag in there, but I don't even have their Google's Universal ID, because this is such an old site that I installed Google Analytics so long ago that it doesn't use the universal tag like the newer versions of it. So here's my analytics in the back. You can see that on your old websites, there's my work from somewhere UA. It says upgrade to GA4. So I'm going to click that. Get started. Create property. I'm like looking at this stuff again too, as you can tell, reading through it. I don't want to screw up when you're watching this, so just reading through. So here's my tag installation. It automatically created the property. The part that was confusing, and the reason why I ended up with multiple, it shows the HTTP instead of the HTTPS. So I thought I had messed up on the previous site that I was doing, but I guess by default, it just does it from HTTP and includes both versions of it. So here's my add new on page tag. Copy this. Come over here. You can also see that I had put it in the wrong place. I mean, it still worked. It's not a big deal, but they recommend putting it in the head section, not in the body section like they used to recommend. So pop over here and put the new code in here. And you can see that right now on the G tag, I've just got the G for the new Google Analytics 4. But what I need to do is take the UA, okay? This is a super old version of it, so it doesn't look right. So I had copied the code from elsewhere. So come over here, underneath that, paste that, and the only thing I need to change is my tag, because that's a tag for a different website. And I'm going to erase this script. I had a couple custom things set up, but it doesn't really matter for that site anymore, so I'm going to get rid of them. But just know that if you have like conversion tracking and certain things set up, it's not going to automatically transfer over to your G4 tag. You've got to redo some of that stuff. Chances are, though, if you have some of that stuff set up, you probably don't need this tutorial anyway. So most of you watching this probably have the basic Google Universal Analytics set up like I have on this site or on my previous site, and you're just trying to make the switch. So now here's my new tag, global site tag for Google Analytics. This came pre-installed. I copied over my UA. You're going to have both just like this, and I'm going to hit save. Let's click on any article on this website. Okay, so now I've got my work from somewhere. There's the new property created that obviously doesn't have views. It's got data streams, and then I've still got the older version that you saw a second ago. Let me pull it up here. So here's the old Universal Analytics version still running. You can see that there's 2 people active on the site, one of them being me. And here's the new stream version of it, showing obviously it's collecting data, but there's nothing historic because I just added it 1 second ago. So I posted on here if anyone has any questions, and Jessica just asked, I was trying to figure out if it works if you're using a plugin for GA. So just to reemphasize, that's what I was talking about at the beginning. If you're using a plugin, then chances are you're not copying and pasting code right here. Chances are in your plugin, there's just a spot to copy and paste this right here. I know you're familiar. It says copy and paste your ID. Sometimes they automatically put the UA and they just want the number. But basically, you want to go into your plugin, make sure it's upgraded, because they've had 30 days now to update their plugins for this new GA4 if they're going to, and find the place where you would normally enter this code, and there should be another new option that you can run right underneath it to put this. I just asked Jessica what plugin she used. Let me see if she responds, because I've never used a plugin to house my Google Analytics code before, so I'm not sure which ones people use or what's the most popular one, or I'd put that in this video. Hey, so I just wanted a quick example. This is what I was talking about. So here's a popular plugin used by a ton of people for inputting their Google Analytics. Whatever, I forgot how many people were using it. But so this person said 3 weeks and 4 days ago, how do we add the Google Analytics 4 ID? This guy says, it just came out. Give me a break, mofo. And 3 weeks later, they're still asking for it. And so free plugins might be a little bit behind, like this guy, because again, if you're not adding the code manually yourself like this right here, you're at the mercy of just waiting for the plugin to add an option in the back of your website to input your new tag right here. And I just can't speak. There's so many freaking plugins out there. I can't speak for it. So the best thing to do is to find the plugin that you're using and then Google search name of plugin plus Google Analytics 4 and see if, or visit the plugin like I did right here on their WordPress.org page and see if anyone's asked about it and see what their response is. But that's it. If you're using an old plugin, now sometimes it's built into something bigger. Like if you're using like Monster Insights or something like that, like you probably don't want to. If you're using some big solution like this right here, you probably don't want to run 2 sets of code side by side. But if you're using a plugin like this right here, just for the purpose of adding that one line of code, you can follow this tutorial and just basically get rid of this plugin. It's unnecessary. If you have a plugin specifically just to add Google Analytics, you don't really need it anymore. Just follow this tutorial, paste it into the header section of your website through your theme, and go from there. Or if you want to keep using the plugin for some reason, you can follow this tutorial. Just don't paste that universal. Don't paste this part, because your plugin is doing this part right here. If you copy and paste this code manually, it's only going to have this part. So you're basically running, your plugin and the code side by side. It's not necessary, but that's the way to do it. But if anyone has specific troubles, just post in the comments the name of the plugin you're using, and we'll try to find you specific directions for getting started. But yeah, a little bit confusing, not ridiculous though. You definitely want to continue running both side by side though, because I was reading that a lot of some new features. I was reading that there are missing features for Google Analytics 4 that haven't come out yet. Even though it's technically out of beta, it's still missing some things that the Universal Analytics have. So you'll probably want to continue running both side by side. That's all I got for you. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll go from there.